Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, EKU football players quit the program over concerns about COVID-19 safety. The SEC makes training camp changes because of the pandemic. And hear from a UK lineman who donated his hair for charity. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome to Hey, Kentucky, along with LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. And Keith, we're starting the show with sports, but not in the way we want to.
I know, for some reason I'm thinking, in this time, in 2020, it's never good to start with sports.
No, exactly. It's never like, hey, it's all back. No, never. The issue of COVID-19 safety in college athletics is certainly heating up here in Kentucky. Kicker Landon White and an offensive lineman have reportedly quit the EKU football team over their concerns. White called out the Colonel's program in a scathing Instagram post, questioning safety practices and testing. The school has responded by defending its safety practices. Meanwhile, in the Big Ten, a group of more than 1,000 football players is calling on the conference and the NCAA to put a better safety plan in place. And the coronavirus is again at issue at U of L. The school has suspended activities for 4 fall sports after 29 cases popped up among the volleyball, field hockey, and men's and women's soccer teams. The primary source of the outbreak, an off-campus party. Keith, we know that 18 to 22-year-olds have this feeling of invincibility and the thought that, well, even if I get it, what's it going to be? Listen, their actions shut down their programs.
Not only that, that kind of gets me worried about colleges going back and being in person. Like we saw some of the Kentucky just students coming back this week, being tested, being given everything they need, but yet there's going to come a time where they're probably going to go to some parties, and what's going to happen then? We're also seeing all these unities, these unifying players getting together, like in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, who are kind of putting out some demands. I mean, you know, so I can't blame them. I mean, they want to feel like they're safe. And now you've got a guy like, if the report is true that Graham Ashkettle, the offensive lineman at EKU, has also left the program. He's first team all OVC preseason. I mean, you're not talking about a slouch. This kid's a good player.
And listen, the players are asking for there to be some sort of guidance from above. The NCAA will hunt you down for taking a $50 bill from somebody, but have not really put a plan in place for coronavirus. And we've known about it for months now. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. I feel like the SEC's done more than the NCAA has.
Correct. All right, school board members in Jessamine County have voted to have kids return to class, but the superintendent says it's not happening, at least not this month. Matt Moore decided to exercise his veto power. While the board voted 3-2 to get back into classrooms, Moore says NTI will resume when the school year begins. He based his decision on information from his county's health department, which cites a 650% positivity rate per 100,000 people in the community in recent weeks. Most parents are understanding.
There's always positive and negatives for each. I personally want the kids to go back.
I think that they have a ton of benefits to go to school, but at the same time, I feel like we're not really ready to tackle all those right now.
Of course, many Kentucky school districts are opting to start with online learning. And Keith, as we've discussed before, there's not a good option. So they all stink. So I guess you might as well do the safest one.
Well, good for Matt Moore to put it on himself. I mean, he heard what everybody wanted to do, and he said, I'm going to have us do it this way because I feel like it's the most safe option. And you know what? That's what we did when this whole thing broke. Governor Beshear said, I'd rather be way more safe than to not take it seriously. And that's what he's doing there in Jessamine County.
Yep. The American Heart Association says for the past several months, people have been avoiding the emergency room even when they are experiencing symptoms of a heart attack or stroke. The AHA says it's because people are fearful of going into a hospital in the midst of all this. But the executive director of our local chapter says they need to call 911 immediately, even if they have mild symptoms, because every second counts. He says the longer stroke and heart attack victims wait, the more damage can be done.
Your heart muscle's not going to come back. It doesn't rebuild itself. your brain does not rebuild itself very well either. So thus the importance of getting that treatment just as quickly as possible.
Local hospitals are reassuring patients that they are staying as safe as possible to protect patients coming into the ER without COVID-19. And Keith, certainly, I'm sure it's happened, but we haven't heard a ton of contact tracing going back to emergency rooms.
You know, very true. And you know, here's the thing. I have no doctors in my house. So if I'm starting to having some sort of symptoms like we're hearing about, I'd rather take my chances and get to the hospital and have those doctors and nurses that can take care of me much more than stay home and not. So please, if you have any of those symptoms, go to the hospital. They will keep you safe and away from the COVID-19 floors.
Have you checked Facebook? There's a ton of doctors there.
I could probably get a couple there, you're right.
All right, turning to SEC football. Before the league announced a 10-game conference schedule would be played this fall, Kentucky was preparing for preseason practice to begin today. Now they'll have to wait another 2 weeks before they can put on pads. The first SEC football practices will be held Monday, August 17th, 10 days later than most teams originally anticipated. This will not follow the typical training camp schedule. Schools must adhere to the NCAA's normal in-season football access time of 20 hours a week with 2 off days a week required. Even though coaches are spending fewer hours per week with players in the preseason, this plan will give teams 11 more days of practice ahead of their first game than in a typical year. All teams are expected to kick off September 26th. And Keith, because of the later kickoff, I think that's why the practice was pushed back.
Look, here's what I love about this. The SEC could easily said, here's your 10-game schedule. Be safe while you're out there. Instead, they said, all right, we've got to get everybody ready the same way, and we've got to make sure they're all safe. That was the reason for doing an SEC-only schedule. So now they say, here's how you can do it. Here's how you take care of it. Here's the time you can spend. And they're even doing less than normal for these student athletes. So I love the fact that they didn't just think about the games, they thought about the practices and workouts and getting ready for the season.
And they have set forth guidelines, which is very helpful during this time. Meanwhile, the Kentucky football team has managed to make it into another preseason top 25. College Football News ranked all 130 FBS teams, Cats coming in at number 25 overall, one of 8 SEC teams in that preseason top 25. UK is also ranked in Phil Steele's top 25. Their elite offensive line unit is also drawing praise ahead of the season. John Schlarman's group has managed 4 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards rushing or more, and in a ranking of the 5 best offensive lines in college football, Rivals.com lists Kentucky's unit as the number 4 group in the nation. And I mean, it's true. Like, this offensive line is stellar.
I mean, everybody loves them. Cole Kublik loves them, you know, with the SEC network. I mean, here's the thing, though. Can we just one time be in a top 25 of something, recruiting, preseason, whatever it is, and not be 8th, 9th? I mean, is that too much to ask every single time? I mean, I'd love to see us, yeah, we're 25th, but we're 5th in the SEC. Yeah. That sounds a whole lot better.
Yeah. So it's for all of you out there who don't think the SEC is the best football conference. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It just is. All right, up next on Hey Kentucky, it's a labor of love that was 18 months in the making. I'll talk to a UK football player, Ryan Bryant, about his decision to grow his hair out just so he could cut it all off. Find out why next.